So now we're going to get into factoring. Factoring is basically if you take something apart, you're basically like taking problems apart, and when you multiply them, you get back to where you started. So that's pretty much what factoring is. So it says find the GCF of the numbers. So you always, when factoring, your first step is to always find the greatest common factor, which is what number, what variable do the two terms have in common? So with 18 and 30, 6. With 12 and 18, 6. Because 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18. There's nothing higher than that. For 10 and 35, you would get 5. 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 7 is 35. For 8 and 30, we would get 2. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 15 is 30, and so on. And you would keep going. Let me just check something really quick. So I will be uploading this worksheet for you all. The answers are here at the bottom, 652, which is what we just got. Okay, so those are the easy ones. Let's scroll down. Now let's find the greatest common factor between terms. What's the greatest common factor? Well, these two terms here have a 3 in common. If I were to take out a 3, if I were to divide both terms by 3, I would have a 2x left here and 1 here, right? It's like the reverse distributive property. When you get back to where you started, you get 6x plus 3. For these two terms, it would be an 8x. Both of them can be divided by 8x. What do I have left? 3x minus 1. Same thing here. What can I take out? A 6. What do I have left? X minus 2. Remember, when you multiply these, you should get right back to where you started. So let's kind of skip over here. Number 8, they have a 3 in common. If I were to take out a 3, I would have a 4x squared minus 3x less 5. So just since I'm giving you this worksheet with the answers, be sure to practice it. And like I said, you can check your answers here. So that's what we got. That's what we got. That's what we got. And number 8, that's also what we got. So always check your answers. Even I check my answers, especially when you're practicing. This is called the difference of two squares. Difference means subtraction. So you see subtraction here, right? The difference of two squares, meaning I could take the square root of the first and last term, which is what they did here. The square root of a squared is a, the square root of 36 is 6. You're going to put these in the a plus c, a minus b, c format. This is your C term, this is your A term, right? What's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of 1? 1. So x plus 1, x minus 1. When you FOIL these, you get right back to where you started, which is why at the beginning of Algebra 1, we went over multiplying, adding, subtracting, and dividing terms. Because now when you're doing factoring, it comes in handy when you're checking your answers and doing other things involving factoring. Okay, so let's skip down to this one here. What's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of negative? Oh, actually, sorry, don't worry about the negative. What's the square root of 16y squared? 4y squared. Sorry, 4y. So x plus 4y, x minus 4y. When you FOIL it, you'll get right back to where you started. For number 12, and sometimes, so if you see a plus like here, number 3, this is prime, meaning it cannot be factored. That's the sum of two squares. You cannot factor the sum of two squares. You can only factor the difference of two squares. So for number 12 here, you can rearrange number 12 to 16 minus x squared, because that's the difference of two squares, and that would get you 4 minus x, 4 plus x. And when you FOIL it, you get right back to where you started. So I want you, after watching this video, I want you to practice numbers 1, 2, and 3. You can also practice on Khan Academy. Let's switch over. The beginning of the Khan Academy unit goes to factoring monomials, meaning find the GCF. Which one of these are factored correctly? So monomials are one term. Look, greatest common factor of monomials, which is what we were just doing. For this one, it would be, what do they all have in common? 10b squared, and etc. Factoring polynomials. Some of these you may not know how to do just yet. We'll get there, but you can try to practice as much as you can on Khan Academy. It says the rectangle has an area of this, so meaning width times length equals this. The width of the rectangle is equal to the greatest common factor. Okay, what's the greatest common factor? Both of them, what do they have in common? 2x squared. So 2x squared times what gets you this? 7x squared plus 3. And that's the answer. So these, yeah, you might, yeah, it's just taking out the common factor for these. So these are just practicing how to take out the common factor. These ones you might not know how to do just yet. Actually, this one you can. This is the difference of two squares. Always take out a GCF first. So let me actually zoom in a little bit. So if I were to take out the GCF, I would get x squared. What do I have left? 3x squared minus, actually, I can take out a 3, 2. I have an x squared minus 75 divided by 3 is 25. So now I can take, this is the difference of two squares right here. What's the square root of x? X. So sorry, let me type in my answer. So I took out my GCF, always take out a GCF. The square root of x is x. Square root of 25 is 5. X minus 5, x plus 5. Or you can do x plus 5, x minus 5, same thing. When if you were to multiply this out, you would get right back to where you started. I may have messed up. Okay, let's actually take a step back. I can see where I went wrong. Sorry, this is x to the third. I should have took out an x to the third. That's what they have in common. What do I have left? X squared minus 25. So basically I took out the wrong GCF. So let me retype my answer. It was very close. That happens. X minus 5, x plus 5. Okay, so that's why it's good to check your answer. If I were to multiply this, I would get right back to x squared plus 5x minus 5x plus 25. Sorry, minus 25, which is right back to where I started. If I were to multiply this, I would get right back to 3x to the 5th minus 75x to the 3rd. So this should have been an x to the 3rd. I took out the wrong GCF. My apologies. So just practice this as much as you can. We'll get into how to factor different types of problems like trinomials, perfect square trinomials, trinomials when a is equal to 1, when a is greater than 1, factoring by grouping. And so some of this you may have learned from Algebra 1, some of it you may not have learned just yet, but we will get there. So if you need additional videos or have questions, please feel free to message me.